an apple that is not an apple out there or something.
If I was going to be a dialetheist, I'd probably argue it actually from the position you don't. I'd argue it from some like a some random physics fact that's really hard to explain without accepting true contradictions,
Oh,
like
oh,
vacuum or something, vacuum
like
collapse.
do the thing that people do where it's like, oh, where there's like quantum physics, like indeterminate particles or whatever, stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, well, maybe no. What I'd probably do is I'd probably say something like, if premise one, the universe is not a black hole. Premise two, if or sorry, premise one, the observable universe is not a black hole. Premise two, a black hole is defined as when the Schwarzschild radius of a body of mass extends past its actual volume. The universe does fit this definition. Conclusion: the universe is a black hole, and the universe is not a black hole. Something like that.
That sounds.
Yeah. All right. So let me know when you want to start. Oh, Paolo's
Yeah,
going.
we might want to get
Okay.
people in here first
Fair.
because this is
Yeah,
like
just
the
wait until we
first
get like
big deal.
maybe like 30 members, 30 to 40.
Wait, Mercury, you have like pings and other server, or you have like perms and other servers to ping and stuff, right?
Yeah, like a few other servers.
Yeah. Everyone go ping it around. This is pretty big debate, man. Where have you been, Synth? I don't see you around that often.
I've been off of Discord for a while, not because of any kind of like issue with it. I really enjoy the debate thing. It's still a lot of fun. But I've been doing things that I don't want to. I'm not sure how much I want to say. I'd be more willing to say more in like a conversation. There's not a bunch of people listening, but I'm doing important IRL stuff. In short.
Yeah. Hey, Nebu Chad, how you doing? Let me tell you, Synth, if Nebu Chad says I'm losing, I'll concede immediately, okay?
Okay. Is that a fucking dedicated fan?
Yeah. Nebu
Hell yeah.
Chad, he is the GOAT. I mean, just look at his profile picture. Look at that. Beautiful.
It's a pretty big goat. Very big goat. Does kind of look like a goat.
That's true. Wait, ping it in Underground Mercury because there's still a few stragglers. Let me send it in a few servers. Dude, this shit is dead. What does the column come to?
Do you have permissions to announce an area server?
No, I can get Airy. Actually, I might, but either way, I can get Airy to announce.
Yeah.
Dude, it got deleted immediately. I think I have to remove the fucking server link. Dude, I can't. Holy shit, this is so dumb.
It's the everybody.
No, I removed that too. They just don't allow server links. That's so dumb. Let me get Airy to ping it. At Airy. Ping me versus. I'll DM her the invite. Just hold, guys. It'll happen soon. We just we want to get people in here, man. Stop ghosting and answer DMs. Sorry, you can't do that. Alright. By the way, Synth, do you wanna know the funny thing about like why you were told that I was like saying I'd bitch you or something?
It's because people wanted some drama, I'm guessing. Unless there's some more detail to it.
Well, yeah, basically what happened was so I can just assume Hyde's the person that told you. Is that accurate?
I don't think so, but I don't remember who told me.
Okay. Well, it was probably someone associated with. He wants to like have us debate and then get the recording and then just send it around and like use it to slander me. It's really funny.
Oh, that's deranged.
It's super funny. I'm not gonna.
It's kind of funny. A little bit nutcasey though.
Yeah. All right. We got 28 people. They'll keep flooding in. We can start it up. So, do you want to go first, or should I?
Actually, give me like 30 seconds. I'm gonna start it up in just a bit here.
All right, bet. Dude, the debate hasn't even started yet. Why is Nexus dick eating?
All right. Right. So I'll go first. You said, or do you want to go first?
I was just asking you which one you want.
Yeah. I mean, I've got like an argument I want to present. So I mean, like, how familiar are you with things like a Simon's or a Young style reverse revenge issue?
I've never.
What did you say?
I said I've never heard of.
Right. So Simon's, I think Simon's is probably the one I prefer. He gives this notion of a value set. And if you want, we can talk more about whether or not that's going to be the value set notion is an issue. I'll tell you the short answer is it's not. It's kind of like relatively simple. But the idea is, are you familiar with like a semantic profile?
Roughly. You might want to define the terms because we might be using.
Right, it's like the set, probably going to be a rough definition, but like the set of conjuncts of which it dictate the relationship the statement has to truth. So, for example, in the liars, at least two of those conjuncts, that might not be fully exhaustive here, but at least two, it's like one is going to be that it's true that L, like T of L, and additionally, another one is going to be F of L. If you believe it's a true paradox, then you believe that's at least part of the set of conjuncts of the semantic profile. You might also believe it has crazy stuff like not T of L or not F of L and other stuff layered into it. But all the value set is doing is it's looking through the semantic profile, and if there's any instance of T of statement, right, in that semantic profile, or that the statement is true, then your value set will include 1. It's not going to include multiple instances of 1, no matter how many instances of T of L you have or something. Suppose it would even make sense to say that. No matter how many instances, you still only have 1 instance of 1 in your value set. And on top of that, if there's F of L, then you have an instance of 0 in your value set. So non-propositions, if they were to have a value set, it would just be an empty set. And for a true contradiction, if it were to have a value set, it would be the set of 1, 0. So opening bracket, 1, 0, closing bracket. If for true statements, it's just opening bracket 1, closing bracket. For false statements, opening bracket 0, closing bracket. And for the true contradictions is 1, 0. So, do you understand what I mean by the notion of value set, or should we interrogate that more?
Yeah, I think I like roughly. You might want to elaborate just in case you think I don't get it, but
I think you do. It's pretty simple. It's just that for any non-prop, it's going to be empty. For any true contradiction, it's going to have a 1 and 0. For any true statement, it's got a 1, just 1 only. For any false statement, it's 0, 0 only. But the idea is that you can now run. So I'm guessing would you affirm the liar's sentence as being an example of a true contradiction?
Variants of it, yeah.
Some variant of it.
Yeah.
So tell me if this one is. Tell me if this statement is true, false, or if you want to accept it as being a non-prop. The statement is this sentence has a value set of 0.
And that's just to say the sentence is false.
It's like a higher order way of saying that. It's like an analysis of it being false. Yeah. There's slight differences, which we'll get into later.
I'd have to think about it. I mean, if the only reason to deny it being a contradiction would be that it's what's it called? Would be that it self-refers, and I think no. And then I think it's a true contradiction. But if there's some other motivation, I think maybe it's not proposition. It's false.
To me, it looks like on face value, it looks the same as the liar sentence, and so I can't think of any reason that'll get you out of this. That doesn't also get you out of the liar sentence and every other random true contradiction. Again, you can rephrase this. He's actually Simons makes a generator that you can use for any random true contradiction. I'll link you the fucking paper. It's pretty good. The idea, though, going with liar sentence, that one's commonly accepted. This is just a variant of liar sentence, basically. It's something that, if you accept the liar sentence, it's really hard to deny this for any kind of like non-contrived ad hoc or non-ad hoc reason. So if you're accepting that, like, yeah, it does seem to be a true contradiction, what that would mean is that it actually has a value set of 1, 0, right? Right, and you've also affirmed it has the value set of 0, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is what the sentence says, yeah.
Right. So you accept that it has a value set of 0, right? Of opening bracket, 0, closing bracket. You accept that. You also accept it has a value set of 1, 0. And so the value set for the statement, because obviously each statement just definitionally can only have one value set given the constructor for the value sets. It has the value set in, you could say, well, it's a true contradiction that it has both value sets, right?
Yeah, so the issue I have is that I'm kind of skeptical of the semantics, but, like, if you want to continue, that's fine, but...
Okay, I'll continue, and then you can feel free to tell me why you think it's the case that or maybe you're skeptical on the idea of a value set. I'm willing to even open up Notepad and like demonstrate. But the idea is, if for any random statement has one value set, which is something that we know because of the constructor for the value set, and this statement has a value set of 0, and it has the value set of 1, 0, well, then it has the value set of this statement has a cardinality of 1, and the value set of this statement has a cardinality of 2. And the value set of the statement's cardinality should be, because there's only one value set, it will be the same it should be the same cardinality, which would mean that 1 equals 2.
Repeat that? Sorry?
Right, so the value set of the statement is 0. And since you accept it as a true contradiction, you also accept the value statement of, or the value set of the statement as being 1, 0. So you accept it as being 0, you accept it as being 1, 0, and that would mean that you'd have to think that 0 and 1, 0 are the same set. They'd be the same set because they're both the value set of this statement, the one value set of the statement.
Is there a contradiction in a statement having multiple value sets?
Yes, because of the generator of the value set. It's based on the semantic profile.
Okay, I don't really get it. I don't see why the same statement couldn't both be 0 and 0. It seems like it's saying, like, the reason it can't is because statements can't have embedded contradictions or something.
So if you're saying that you think it's the case that the statement can't have two value sets, the reason would be because of the definition of the value set, and I'll give it in the pop-out chat. I'm going to write it out just so you can like see it with your eyes, because that was a little bit easier for me than hearing it with words. I'll write it down real quick. It'll be in the pop-out.
To be clear, is it because, like, you said it's due to the semantic profile. Is it because semantic profiles can't internally contradict?
That's right. The semantic profile can have a relation of truth where you say true of A and false of A. But even then, we could grant you the idea of a contradicting semantic profile where you say T of A and not T of A. Right, I'll grant you it entirely just to avoid the confusion. It's still the case that when it comes to the value set, all you're selecting out for are statements like T of A, not statements like not T of A. You're selecting out for statements like T of A or conjuncts like T of A and conjuncts like F of A, but you're not selecting out for conjuncts like not T of A. And I'll write out the value set definition here. Give me like 30 seconds. Not even 30, 10 seconds.
Very high level exchange.
Like, that's the definition for the value set. And to walk through that, the value set of A being some statement, is one where T of A, which just means that it has a relationship to truth there, and the union of that with 0 where F of A. So in a situation where there's no T of A in the conjunct set, you won't have that one there, you'll just have the 0 there. In the situation where there's no F of A in the conjunct set, then obviously you would only get the 1. And if you get both T of A and F of A like in true contradictions, then you get the 1, 0.
Okay, so the issue I have is that, like, say that it both has 0 and 0, 1, right? Well, it just sounds to me, even though you said you're going to grant, it sounds to me like the only reason to reject that is due to the fact that you reject contradiction.
Oh, no. Because the issue is that it gets you to, I mean, you agree that if you were to trivialize your logic, that would be an issue for a pair-consistent logic, if the logic is trivialized.
Yeah.
Right. That's the issue with this, is it trivializes the logic. Because the reason you get to a trivialization of the logic is because you have a set. That same set has a cardinality of 1 and has a cardinality of 2. And so for set x, if it has a cardinality of 1, and that set x has a cardinality of 2, that would mean that 1 equals 2. And if 1 equals 2, then 1 minus 1 equals 0, 2 minus 1 equals 1, which means that 0 equals 1. There are 0 sound arguments in favor of trivialism. Therefore, there are 1 sound arguments in favor of trivialism, because 1 equals 0. Therefore, trivialism is true. Which trivialization of your logic is something we both accept is an issue for the dialetheist.
Yeah. Do you have like a formalized version for that? Just because like I want to see it written
Oh yeah.
out.
I'll fucking because it's Simon's, I'll link you his paper. I'll drop it in the pop-out chat as a PDF to make life easy.
Strife in chat is of the opinion this debate is about trivial. How do you feel about
In some sense, maybe you could say that. Really, it's about dialetheism, and it's about us both not wanting to be trivialists.
Yeah, I mean,
there's the PDF. I hope that somehow that hasn't embedded something that doxes me. There you go.
Oh fuck! It's your first and last name and your address.
That's right.
Is there an argument for the thing you just said? Like, is there any keywords I could search for?
Control F for value set. The argument he's giving here that's relevant to us is the one where he goes. It's the subsection called revenge.
Okay,
Is this the right one? Hold on, let me see if this is the right one. Yeah, it is. A paradox, repetition. If you control F for value set, you'll find it. And he's going to do this thing. His writing style it was like annoying the fuck out of me with this earlier, but he does this thing where he'll like make the statement first, and he'll be like, "What the fuck? That's obviously in dispute." And then like fucking 2 paragraphs later, he just like demonstrates it. It's like, brother, do that first next time. It fucking freaks me out. But it's great. It's genuinely a good paper. If I think this is like the second best type of argument against dialetheism, especially if we were specifically restricting off like ones that philosophers can get. I think it's the best argument. If you're willing to accept ones that mathematicians can get, then the best argument is that you can't build arithmetic out of pair-consistent logics. And there are some fucking killer articles on that.
Okay. Where's the point where I don't see where it motivates that you can't have maybe I'm not looking right.
Well, I'm granting you the idea that you can have contradictions, but if you're asking about where you can have only one value set, just control F for only one and you'll find it.
Okay.
The second instance of it is the one where he justifies the statement once again, like as mentioned earlier, because he does that stupid shit. It's the second instance of it will be right after it's justified in just the prior example, but it's also justified just by like if you just look at the definition of value set there, it's like it couldn't select out for anything contradictory. And you could say something like, well, I do think there are true contradictions, and that's fine because that's kind of like what the argument relies on. Like if you think there are two mutually, that's the thing the argument really wants out of the dialetheist is for them to say, no, there are actually two value sets which are the same value set. Two value sets with different cardinality, or a value set where 1 is the value set and 0 is the value set, and you affirm that both the value set of the thing. But as long as you accept there's only one value set, then then there's your issue. If there's only one value set and the one value set has a cardinality of 2 and a cardinality of 1, then 2 equals 1. If the value set's the same and the value set the value set contains 1 and the value set contains 0 and does not contain both, then you have an issue there. If you just affirm the value set is that 0 value set that he gives, then even if you say that the value set's 1, 0, or if you think it's just 1, either way, you're still affirming that the value set is 0, in which case you have either 1 equals 0 directly, or you have set with a cardinality of 2 is equal to a set with a cardinality of 1, which means 1 equals 2, which is an issue because it trivializes your logic for the same reason earlier.
Okay. Well, as I said earlier, I'm still skeptical of the semantic. Like, I'm not sure. This is gonna sound like a cop-out, but I'm just not sure this is how we use the language.
This is how we use the language. I mean, but these These are not intended to be portrayals of how we use the language.
So is this just like saying like, given this like analysis of the language, it follows these conclusions given a dialethic model is true?
Right, yeah. It trivializes it. You could even still affirm dialetheism. It's just I'm not sure if you still want to do that if you gotta affirm trivialism.
Yeah, I just don't see, like, I'm seeing it here, I just don't get it. Like, maybe it's just me, but I literally just don't get it. Like, I can see, like, I can imagine, say like a liar, like a standard liar's, like, this sentence is false or thing. Which you take to just be identical to this sentence has a value set of 0, right?
I'm not sure I would consider it would be analytically identical, though it's not it's not like the same intent. But it's like one entails the other, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like the thing is, I don't see it like whenever I think of like this sentence is false, I'm not thinking of it as it's both false and true and false. I think of it as just it is true and false.
Right, which is sufficient there. If you think of it as true and false, then the semantic profile of the liar sentence includes T of A. That's one of the conjuncts, and another conjunct is F of A.
Right, but it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be that from the liar sentence being both true and false. It is also just false, right?
Well, if I say that's the point of the value set, because it's the same as to say it's false only.
I don't think so. I think that the dialetheists would like to say that there's a third truth value, and then that's the one that the liar sentences have.
You don't want to do that. If you say a third truth value, then you're not a dialetheist anymore. What you are, you're not denying L and C, you're denying LEM. Which I think is, honestly, I'm partial to. I'm partial to denying LEM, not LNC, though.
Well, I'm also sympathetic to denial of the LEM. Like, I think functional dialetheist models deny the LEM. Because I think
if you can think that, denying LEM, I think, is probably good for the dialetheist, but that's not sufficient to be a dialetheist, right?
Well, yeah, I agree. I'm not just denying the LEM. I'm also denying the LEM.
Right.
I think that denying the LEM is a good supplement to denying the LNC.
Right, and I'd probably say that if you're going to deny the LNC, probably I wanted to deny the LEM too. It's just that when it comes to the dialetheists, they're not just denying the LEM. They're also denying LNC, and once you get it there, you're not saying something like any true contradiction actually has a third type of truth value, because that is not really a denial of the LNC. That's just to say these things are neither true nor false in the strict sense. They're a third type of thing.
Yeah, so I think that, like, on my dialetheist model, I would think that there's at least 3 truth values. There's true, false, and true and false.
Which, like, that sounds to just, it depends what you mean here. If you mean that, right, so the way you're writing it out, true, false, and true and false. But to be the third of these, to be the third type of truth value here, that entails you the first and the second, right?
No. On this logic, I wouldn't agree with the.
Right. In which case, why not just call it instead of T and F? Why not just call it neither?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's okay. So I don't think it's neither. I think it's a both. Both values on average, like from what I understand, both values typically don't break down into just.
Do you mean here? Do you mean here by T, comma F, comma T and F, T only, comma F only, comma T and F?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's something you can totally accept. But that doesn't really get you out of anything here. Because if you were to say, so I could now there's actually an even more potent revenge paradox that I think is more clear cut, which is this statement is false only. Is that a true contradiction, or is that just non-prop?
This statement is false only, and so it would be like it'd be like kind of like a standard liar's, like this statement has only the false truth value.
Right. If I was to say this statement is false only, is that true? False? Both?
Well, yeah, given it functions in the way a standard liar's does, I think it would just have the both value.
Right. So it's both. Which is what the statement's saying there is that the value set is 0. So to say it's false only. To say it has both means it has a value set of 1, 0. If it has a value set of 1, that means it's true. Or if the value set includes 1, that means the statement is true. And so the statement here would have a value set of 0, and the statement here would have the same value set of 0, 1, And so the value set 0 is equal to the value set 1 comma 0, which means the cardinality of that set is equal to the cardinality of itself. So it should be a cardinality of 1 is equal to a cardinality of 2, which is to say 1 equals 2.
Wait, okay, so are you taking it for granted that the both value entails individually the true and false value?
Not true only and false only, but it does entail true and false, yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm not even sure. So I don't think that I think that the truth and false, like it seems to me like whenever someone says something is true or someone says something is false, right? They're like only attributing that. I think that those can only function when alone. And so like say I have the both value. I'm not sure, but like on my construction, it doesn't seem that
To say
the
both
default.
seems weird then. How is it really both? It seems like it's really neither.
Well, no, it's not neither in the sense that it does have a truth. I understand a neither truth value to be functionally not a truth value, but um, like I think that this does have a truth value.
Right, you just don't think it's true or false, which is, to me, we're not saying true only or false only anymore. We're saying true or false. If that's what you're
Right.
saying, you're not really a dialetheist anymore.
Well, no, okay. Well, first of all, dialetheist, like a standard dialethic logic incorporates a both value. But
It can incorporate both value, but it can't say something like the both value does not entail that you have a T or an F. Otherwise, you're not really like there's not really a true contradiction. It's the both contradiction. We could just call this instead of calling it true and false, which is because really it has nothing to do with truth or falsity at this point. Instead, we can call it we'll call it B. So you have T comma F comma B, and at that point, how can it, why if I believe that fuzzy logic governs the world and governs thought, why wouldn't I be a dialetheist by your definition?
I mean I don't know I don't really care about the but. Like imagine I have like a liar sentence, like this sentence is false, right? I think that entails a both value. So this sentence is
But it
false.
also entails a false value.
But wait, this sentence is false entails the both value, right? And then I think that you could say, the both value is true, and so say I have like a logic that, lets truth function as a predicate. You could say, T of B or something. Like I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah.
So it would be a true contradiction in the sense that it is true that the both value holds, but it's not a true contradiction in the sense that you're thinking about it, where you think that
It doesn't have to be true only. It's just that it has to be true.
right. The issue is that I don't understand. So whenever you say it has the truth, so I understand that whenever we're using truth and falsity in the context of the both value, we're using it differently. Like I think that it's like roughly similar, but whenever we use truth on average, like whenever we're like on average applying the truth predicate, it implies aloneness. It implies that that's the only one. But I think that
By implies, do you don't mean logically? Do you mean like colloquially?
I think it like assumes it.
Right.
don't think it's like a strict implication, but I think it assumes it.
I agree that generally people assume that, but that's because they generally assume contradictions are false.
Right, but the issue is like, I mean that's compatible. I mean, like I think that generally we assume contradictions are like I think on average, like say I like take the set of all contradictions. Like I have this like vast array in front of me. I think a majority of them are false. Like a vast.
Yeah, of course. But you would not say that all of them are false, whereas the average person would say it's actually just like a necessary thing. It's like it has to be the case in folk language. It must be true.
I'm not even convinced the average person thinks that. So I think that the intuition that people have that all contradictions are false, is just you're able to make it down into, they have this strong intuition that most contradictions are false, right? But if you were to ask them, like, do you think it's possible that there's at least one contradiction that's true? I think they would either not have an answer, or they'd like think about it and say like well, maybe.
Oh, definitely not. I think at the moment somebody thinks about it too hard, then they're going to think about what possibility means, and it's just analytic that it doesn't know. I think what they would say is, no, it's impossible because the definition of impossible just means that it's out of accord with this modal scope.
Well, the issue is that assumes that they're using possibility like logical possibility in a way that's strictly referring to the LNC. I mean, there's obviously like dialethic structures of the logical modality.
this is strange then. So what do you think is causes if you think the average person actually is kind of amicable to dialetheism, what do you think causes the phenomenon where all the philosophers are not?
Well, because I think that the average person, as I said, the average person, I don't know if they'd say, I have no clue, or, right? They might just say, I have no clue. I don't think they take a strong stance on it, though. But I think the philosophers, like, I think whenever you think about logic, um, like, we have this kind of strong seeming, as I said, I think the seeming is just most contradictions are false. But I think a lot of people make the mistake that you do, where they take that intuition that most contradictions are false, and then they, like,
That's not the
project it to
intuition
the
I
most.
have. And that's not the intuition most philosophers have. If you ask us, no, it's that they're always false all the time.
Well, no. Okay, so I think that intuitions can change upon deliberate. So I think that like the initial intuition you had was
No,
most
I
contradictions are
agree they can
false.
change, but you said that I'm mistaken about what the intuition is. And I'm saying, no, I'm not mistaken about what the intuition is. I know for certainty. I strongly have this, and most philosophers will tell you the same.
Hmm.
No, I've got a really strong intuition. They're always false. And that if I have a proposition being true, things like disjunctive syllogism or the process of elimination get used as archetypical examples of deduction because of the fact that they are something we all take to just be a necessity. We don't take it to be the case you can break that rule.
Well, okay. Whenever I said you're mistaken about the intuition, I wasn't saying you're mistaken about your intuition. I was saying you're mistaken about the folk intuition.
I don't think that the folk intuition matches up with what you're saying either. And the reason why I think is even in the non-philosopher areas where people will deliberate more on this. The one example I can think of is math, right? What is an area with a bunch of non-philosophers that are all thinking a lot about logic? Can you think of any other ones?
Sorry. What was the question?
I'm asking like outside of the only example I can think of for this is math. I'm looking for an example where you have people thinking a lot about logic but who are non-philosophers.
Thinking a lot about logic, but non-philosophy.
Probably math, right?
Yeah, math or
Maybe like CS
I
or something.
yeah, like
Right.
coding.
And in these fields, the law of non-contradiction is taken as for granted as a law. They don't inquire too much about it. It's just like obviously, like oh yeah, it's obvious to me. It's obvious to me that if I have a proof of X, then I have a proof against the negation.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, like, as I said before, I think that the intuition that you have, like, I think the intuition you initially had, like, I think you initially had the intuition that most contradictions are false, right? And then,
No,
like, upon deliberation, I think what happened is, so I think that there's two paths you can go down. I think whenever you start deliberating about the intuition, you either change to having the intuition that I have that at least one contradiction is true, or you have the intuition that you have that all contradictions are false. I'm okay, so I'm not even fully convinced that the Dialetheist debate is non-semantic. I just find it entertaining. Like,
um, I'm I'm convinced this for some dialetheist is semantic, and I think it's due to a confusion in what the folk mean. I think when there's like there is a non-semantic dialetheist view that I think is just false, and I would say trivially false, but it doesn't really matter. The in the case of a dialetheist who is holding up just what seems to be purely semantics, at that point, you've now got this kind of like weighty empirical claim about how folk language is used, and I just haven't seen the evidence.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think that I don't think that we use language based off of the folk semantic. Anyway, but like
Me and you
even from
agreed, yeah. We're clearly not.
yeah, I think that as I said on the intuition point, like I think you can just diffuse the intuition by saying that it's most like the initial intuition,
It's
not
not
the
diffused at all for me though, doing that. Like doing that almost seems like just a cope. It doesn't feel like a diffusal. It feels like you're just like it's like a cop out. It's like no, come on. Like obviously this is how we think.
right, but
From
I
our
think
perspective, from me and the majority of philosophers, the majority of or not even the majority, like almost all mathematicians, almost all CS majors, all even among I think that we probably do have a representative. The ones who have thought about logic, we probably do have a representative view of what the folk has. I don't think it's the case that we're having a different set of intuitions we're building off of because when we see a contradiction, our thought is not, oh, there's this, the chance of this being true is very improbable. No, our thought is, this can't be fucking true. That's retarded. That can't be true. That's how we think about it. That's the intuition we get. This can't be true. Not, this is unlikely to be true. We don't view it in the same kind of way. It doesn't evoke the same kind of sense.
okay, okay, so the thing is, I think that you're kind of appealing to your intuition. So you're thinking about the way that you think about it, right? And like I agree in the way that you think about it. You have the intuition that all contradictions are false,
I think most
right?
people
But
do.
right, but the issue is that uh, like I like this is probably like a weak case, but I've seen a lot of people whenever they first get into like meta logic or whatever, and they look at like objections to the law of non-contradiction or objections to the law of excluded middle or whatever, right? They're like immediately kind of they immediately like sit there and they're like, huh, maybe that could work, right? And that just seems unlikely given they have this like extremely strong intuition that all contradictions are false. Like it seems to me like they wouldn't even
No.
like take that long to deliberate.
No, I think all that does is it shows that they don't have absolute certainty that all contradictions are false. Which isn't to say something like that they don't have the intuition that all contradictions are false. They have a strong belief that all contradictions are false. But when they see, oh, those are actually some interesting arguments, what they think then is there is some chance that I'm mistaken about the claim that all contradictions are false. However, I do affirm the belief.
Right, but there's some chance that I'm wrong about everything, but whenever I see like a flat earther say something retarded, I don't sit there and go, huh.
That's
Like
because they have worse arguments, right? Like the flat Earth. I think there actually are some things that a flat earther might say that would actually make you go, "Huh, what the fuck?" It's just that the flat earther on average is retarded, whereas the dialetheist on average is non-retarded. So that's the divorce there. A smart flat earther would they probably run some argument on you regarding like acceleration being able to account for gravity, and then the counter arguments are always things that are quite bad. And so once they give you the counter arguments to that, I think that would generate that, that's kind of crazy type of feeling.
yeah, like the thing is that like how does the person who's how does the person who's just getting into meta logic like say imagine we have these two people. One person has like never been into meta logic in their entire life and they're just getting into meta logic, and then say there's the second person who's just getting into the flat earth debate and they're like getting in and they like hear an argument for flat earth for the first time ever. How are they evaluating that one argument is better than the other? Because they have like none of the data. How are they evaluating that?
Oh, I think they do have the data. I think they
You
have tremendous amounts of data on both.
So you think like whenever they like first walk into the meta logic debate, they know like immediately how to, or they like know immediately like all the data that makes it so that maybe dialetheism is less likely or something?
Oh yeah, the dialetheism is very, very unlikely. They've got a lot of data for it. They don't have the sophisticated arguments to go back and forth, but I think they have plenty of fucking inductive cases.
As it by inductive case, you mean like like all of the true propositions they've seen that are not contradictions and stuff like that.
Right, all the propositions they know are true. They have a huge set of them, and it's going to be like basically all of them for most people will be non-contradictory.
Yeah. So the issue is that I don't know how they're evaluating if the arguments are. If you're saying like the way they evaluate if the argument is good, quote unquote, is if it like maps onto like the kind of schema they have built in their head, right? Well, then I don't like. It just seems like you're saying they believe more strongly that the Earth is flat than they believe that contradictions exist or something. But then like
No, definitely not. I think the issue is what you're not controlling for here is that the flat earther is retarded. Is the short answer. The flat earther is fucking dumb, and so the arguments they make are bad. But there are good arguments you can make for flat Earth.
well yeah, like the issue I have is like I like it doesn't seem to me that there's like anything that the person can appeal to. Is that like unless you're saying like they have stronger inductive cases against dialetheism than they do against flat Earth. But
They
then I
do
could, like,
for sure.
but then I could
They
like the thing is like say I were to like stipulate that out, like they don't know. Like I'd assume you'd just say like they'd have the same kind of reaction they do in both.
If it was the case, we stipulated that out, and we also stipulate out like the fact that they're both having like were they're like the arguments are the same quality. I think they'd probably be more moved by the flat earther.
You think they as in like more moved relative to before, or more moved relative to the dialetheist?
More moved than the dialetheist would move them. The flat Earth, if you control out for the flat Earth retardation, and you make them both equally intelligent, and they're talking to this person for the first time, and they've got all their normal background knowledge, I think the chance of them being convinced of flat Earth is higher than the chance of them being convinced by the dialetheist.
Well, yeah, that just to me that just sounds like you're saying what I said earlier. Like the people have like they have like higher credences in favor of in favor of not
No, I think
dialetheism
what I'm
than
saying is I think
flat
that the arguments that could be made by the flat earther are stronger.
Okay, so like you think that you think there's like a stronger case like on the highest end for flat Earth than there is for dialetheism? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's a couple of different routes I think that will give you some pretty tricky arguments. Like one is you can go the biblical route, and there are some wacky ass obscure arguments that theists can make that I think are probably more compelling than what the dialetheist can make. That's one. And if you can get somebody to believe in the Bible, it's just straightforward that the Earth is flat. People will cope around it, but it's like, come on now, read the fucking Bible. It says it. The other option is the secular approach, which I think is to confuse somebody with physics, and I think it's way easier to confuse somebody with physics than it is to confuse them with like the semantics here, because the physics is fucking weird. The physics is way more unintuitive in reality. Under like the standard model, the physics is actually kind of fucking bizarre, and it's kind of hard to believe.
All right, that again. The issue I have is like I don't know, like again you're saying like they have stronger. If by stronger you mean like more appealing to the average person, I mean maybe, but whenever I say like I don't know how they pick out what is and isn't a good argument, like when I said that earlier, I think they were saying like what I'm saying is I think that there's no way for them to like look at the data and determine that one is better than the other. Like I think that you only learn to do that once you've like actually learned about the subject.
Oh, I totally disagree. I think people come baked in with some faculties there that are going to give them the ability to trace out the better and the worse arguments. And I think really it's just that because of the fact that we think with neural mass, because of that, really what we're doing fundamentally is this kind of inductive process, and there's no way to get around it. We're automatically building a world model, and we know this because you can take neural arrays, throw them in a petri dish, and they'll do it. We're building world models, and we're building world models with the goal in mind of taking the input and producing an output such that the input will be consistent and understandable. And by that, I just mean things like depending on the size of the neural mass, you can get away with more because you can get away with more complex shit going into it. But if you had a really simple neural mass, what it's going to like, it's not going to like high frequency, high amplitude sounds. It's also not going to like silence. What it wants, and it also doesn't want very low pitch noises. It doesn't want white noise either, because white noise is very random, very hard to predict. Instead, what it wants is consistent pulsing at somewhere around 440 hertz. So you have this consistent pulsing, and it's very easy to predict what happens next, and it likes that. And so it'll drive its outputs. Whatever outputs you give it, it'll manipulate those in such a way that it produces that result. And so that's what happens even in neural arrays in a petri dish. The more neural arrays you add, you just add more room for complexity. But I think when you get to the scale of a human brain, we have these huge modules built up, partially by our environment, just because brains are pretty plastic, partially because of the fact that evolution has incentivized certain things to prioritize certain regions. And it seems like if you damage it, the other parts can kind of fill in the gaps and do the job of it, so long as you damage it early on enough. Point being, though, is that when it comes to a brain, these are things which are always doing induction all the time, no matter what. Any neural array is going to do this. If you have a neural array, you're going to do induction just because of the shape of how these things work. In the same way that if you just keep adding fucking neurons to your machine learning algorithm and you give it enough fucking data, you'll get interesting and good results out of it because of the fact that you got induction there. You got a neural array.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, you think that, like, we're like pre-built into, like,
To induct,
okay, yeah. The issue is that, like, what are they inducting about? Like, is the induction just like most propositions that they've seen have been, or all propositions that they've seen rather have been only true or only false?
That's the data from which they're inducting, and the hypothesis they're inducting about is whether or not there exists a true contradiction. And so if you have enough samples, which I think they do, they kind of have a huge shitload of samples. If you have enough samples, then yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to call back to the annoying Shinra conversation I just had, but we can calculate the margin of errors. If I had to ask you, what is your rough estimate for? Maybe we'll do it step by step here. So step one, I'm just going to ask you, do you think it's the case that in the average person's head, they would actually affirm, before hearing any arguments, would they affirm any true contradiction?
Probably not.
Probably not. But in terms of how many propositions they have, fucking countless, right?
Yeah, they've seen a lot of propositions in their day. You could say that.
Right. If I was to ask you, is it like upwards of 100 billion propositions? You'd probably say like, yeah, probably.
Something like that.
Right. So assuming it's way lower, like it's just 1 billion. If we calculate the margin of error for a sample size of a sample size of 1 billion, anyone that doesn't take into account population size or even just assumes some massive population size, you're getting a very tiny margin of error. The chance they're wrong is very slim. Like that probably is representative. When you have a sample of 100 billion of a thing and they all end up one way, the chance that you just haven't sampled enough, very, very, very low.
But then how do they filter out like again? How do they filter out the good argument?
What do you mean? How do they filter out the good argument?
It sounds like what you're saying. Like it sounds like the inductive case that you're building would support that. Like they would just dismiss all arguments for dialetheism with the same degree of certainty. They'd just be like, "Oh well, this is retarded."
They would probably still not be convinced after hearing an argument for dialetheism. And I think probably you shouldn't be. What you should do is when you hear a new argument, you should take it into account as evidence because your brain's going to do that automatically. And if you do it consciously, you can have some kind of control over the form and the rigor of that. So I think what they're doing, I think what people do, if they're doing it properly, if they're doing their reasoning properly, they take the list of propositions and with no background information about the dependency, they assume independence. Because those propositions could be dependent, they could be counter-dependent. They could actually depend against each other. They could be mutually exclusive, or they could be analytically identical. So the mean is independence. So you take the number of propositions of the argument, and what you're going to do is you're going to do 0.5 to the power of the number of propositions. And that's going to give you the probability that you have all those propositions are correct. So 0.5 to the power of the number of propositions gives you the probability that they're all correct. Once you have that probability that those are all correct, then what you do from there is you take into account your credence in the inference rules. If you want to just assume it's 100%, probably for most people somewhere near that. And then you have your credence that you can gain in the conclusion from your argument. I think you really just approach hearing new arguments, even if they're deductive, as an inductive case of the view, because your brain's going to do that no matter what.
Okay, so again, like I'm not sure how they filter out the good arguments. Like it sounds like you're saying like you treat them as evidence like anything else, but
right. Yeah, you see if you have specific examples of evidence in favor of the propositions, or if there are already things you're committed to, or if you have different credences, and then you can multiply those probabilities together. And if your argument is like some simple MP shit, and both propositions are very intuitive, like there's something that people give 90% credence to, that's going to be a very compelling argument. Those things are something people think is 0.9 times 0.9, probability being true in conjunction. Which means that your conclusion, which is entailed from those, is going to be as likely as that times your confidence in your inference rules, or in just MP here, I guess.
Right. Okay. So imagine like some person comes across like a standard liar, right? Like I'll give fucking AY as the example, right? So AY, he looked at the standard liars and he came to the conclusion, oh well, suffer first, and that's the issue, right? But then I'm sorry talked to it, and I'm sorry was like, oh well, here's a liar's variant. It was like the normal one, like person A says everything that person B says is false. Person B says everything that person A says is true. It just so happens it's the only thing they've ever said. And then AY was like, he was sat there and he was like shocked. For like
yeah, actually, I do think that was like watching it was weird because like I don't understand why why not just give you the same fucking response again? Is it genuinely it's like internal self-reference that you have an issue with? Why wouldn't your issue actually be with the non-terminating recursion? The non-terminating recursion will get you out of the obvious example cases or the obvious revenge examples that somebody's going to throw at you, like, oh, well, you think the recursion, or honestly, you don't have to give a revenge example. There are these things that obviously do self-reference, like terminating recursive functions that clearly have a truth value. So why would it be the case that we deny on the basis of self-reference? It's definitely not internal self-reference is the issue, because that's not even an issue. It's the non-terminating recursion that's the issue. If you have a non-terminating recursion, then yeah, you do have an undefined value. Any mathematician will tell you that. No, yeah, actually, like, there's some exceptions, but the type of non-terminating recursion you actually do want to get rid of will be the ones that are undefined. You actually don't want to get rid of all of them.
Yeah, like the thing is, to me, those two arguments, they seem like equally as good, right? Like, I mean, it's basically the exact same fucking argument, right? But so like, why would AY be stunlocked for like an hour?
It's more
Like,
confusing,
trying to
more
think
moving
of a
parts.
response.
It's more complicated. He lost track of the moving parts.
But then like I'm sorry, even explained it to him. Like I'm sorry, I was like, yeah, it's just the same
Explaining
thing.
isn't. I get it, but explaining is not really going to do it for most people. If they've lost track of the moving parts because of the number, explaining it over and over again is not going to get them to get them to the conclusion. It's not going to like get them to understand what's going on there. If I was to explain, I don't know, like if I was to explain how like a CPU, not even a CPU, something simpler. If I was to explain to you how a full adder works, then I think probably you'd, because of the fact that you're not super familiar with the tech, you'd get confused by the moving parts of the full adder, even if I can get you to understand each part independently. Because when you put it all together, it gets kind of complicated, it gets confusing. And I think that if I explain it to you again, I don't think you're going to get it. I think what actually needs to be done is when it comes to learning, you have to really ingest a piece of information before you can start reapplying it later. And in the middle of a conversation, there's a bunch of moving parts, and there's like this kind of like novel idea or even a twist on a novel idea. It's going to fuck most people up, I think.
Yeah, the thing I have is like in my head, whenever I heard it immediately, like even the first time I heard it, whenever I first heard it, I just like reworded it. Like I realized it was literally just the standard liars.
It is, yeah.
But the two truth values are being made persons instead of just like conceptual.
Right, it's like if I feel like one of the common variants of the liars you kind of hear in tandem with the liars is like something which is two mutually recursive sentences where one references the first and the first references the latter, and it's just the same as that. But that's what you did, and so you spotted the issue, but AY didn't for some reason, and it's like shit happens. Like if I fucking go searching through like fucking 3-year-old debates or something, I'm sure I'll find some shit I said that I don't agree with anymore that I think is fucking stupid. But I don't know. People make mistakes. AY is a good debater, but he slipped up and said something that is really not. He got fucked up by a thing which is not really a novel argument. But I don't know. I don't think that's super interesting. It's like it happens to everybody sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems weird. Okay, to be fair, it might just be that AY is kind of weird. He does it all the time, though. Like, AY will get tripped up on really, really small arguments. I don't, like, to me, it just seems that, like, whenever people see these arguments, they don't have this like, built-in, like, faculty to understand why a metalogical argument is good, or understand...
Oh,
I think that...
I think they do. It's
Well,
just that
okay,
it's not going to give them. It's not going to be highly reliable, but it's still pretty reliable. It's better than like random chance. Like if I flipped coins or had it like, your example is AY. AY is not actually. I don't think he's bad at this. If I was to flip coins and I was to have like the coins choose whether or not the arguments were good, I was to have AY choose the arguments are good. AY's going to get way better than the coin.
Yeah, like the thing, I'm not saying it doesn't raise the probability or whatever. Like my issue is like they look at these arguments, right? Like like say like someone were to say propositions are defined as either true or false, so contradictions don't exist. And then someone else said something like oh well, they give like a standard liars. Well, the standard liars is obviously better than the first argument. The first argument's kind of just begging the question. But I'm not sure someone would look at those two arguments. I'm actually pretty confident they would be more sympathetic to the first argument.
Yeah, I think so too because it's more confusing. The first argument being the one where it's the mutual recursion with two agents.
Well, no. I'm saying the first argument is in the one where someone just says contradictions don't exist because propositions are defined as either true or false. And then there's like a standard liars.
Oh yeah, I think that actually would compel the fuck out of people, even though I think it's funny because it's like it really is just semantics. But I actually think most people probably would be compelled by that more than the liars paradox.
Yeah, I agree, but like obviously one of the arguments is better than the other.
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I actually think liars. So I don't know. I think I don't want to say this in a way that seems like I'm like shitting on Dialetheist. Priest is fucking great. Priest is incredibly smart. I think you're very smart. I don't think that Dialetheist arguments are very good. But my standard of good is not like compelling to the average person. I think they are. They do like the liar's paradox, very compelling to the average person. It fucks with people's brains. It's not going to flip them. It's not going to flip most people, but it is going to be really confusing to wrap their heads around. And so I think that when it comes to liar's paradox versus that definitional thing, I think they both kind of the initial one with the definition semantics, almost like a joke argument, it's more compelling to the average person. But I also think it is an accurate account of people's semantics. And so because of that, I think that in terms of the actual quality, I think the first argument talks past. The second argument, the liar sentence here, I think the liar sentence is one which has this like kind of obvious flaw. So to me, both are equally uncompelling. To the average person, the first is more compelling. In terms of the liar's paradox, it's like I guess you can. There are ways to structure it into an argument. It's not really an argument by itself, but if you say something like, "Is the liar's sentence true or false?" and you like get some fucking wackiness out of it, it's kind of like an argument. Um, so I don't know. Both are uncompelling to me. Average person finds the first one more compelling. However, we're grading the goodness of an argument here. I'm not sure the second one is really. I'm not sure liar's paradox does that much. But it's definitely like if you're a dialetheist, you probably want to accept the liar's paradox.
Yeah. Well, I mean, presumably you'd want to say that. Like to me, it just seems that the first argument is like begging the question against the dialetheist. Or like
Depends.
At best, it's like talking past them.
I think that's probably what it's most usually doing is talking past them, unless the dialetheist takes up a stronger stake, which a lot of them do, about how people broadly use the language. In which case, it is actually fair to give what you think is the standard definition, and then say that their definition is not as like it just isn't. It's just in contradiction with what they want to believe, or not even in contradiction, but is not in tandem with their definition. It just doesn't function the same way theirs does. If you say, "Here's the one the average person believes," this one will be very compelling to people. Look at how it compels people. You think of something else. You are getting their definition wrong. If you're trying to capture the folk definition, you get a problem on your hands. But if you're not a dialetheist trying to do that, then yeah, it's talking past you for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we're like here. This is like a podcast. And this isn't even a debate, but
it is. I feel like we kind of had the conversation about the Simons thing, and it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you kind of want to do more digging into it and see if you can come up with any counter arguments. The idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me know if you come up with any. There are I think there are a good couple of responses in the literature that I think fail, but if you see any that you think are good, shoot them over my way. I'll check them out.
All right. Yeah. I also like for the liars thing. I mean, I'd assume for the liars you think that self-reference is an issue, but not for like the standard reasons, or you think it's like
not self-reference. Self-reference, I think, is a non-issue entirely. I think it's. I try to be really careful in my language here. It is a non-terminating recursion that generates an undefined value.
Okay.
I'm using all those terms in just standard mathematical sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'd assume that. Okay, so I had like an argument kind of laid out, but I mean, all right, this is podcast time. Me and Sinthe are gonna discuss an argument I had. Okay, it's time, guys. But yeah, basically, I had this argument against people who think that self-reference is an issue. So basically, what you do. So a lot of the times, whenever someone says self-reference is an issue, they'll go on to elaborate by saying that given self-referential statements are propositional, then Curry's paradox follows. So like, like given you grant that some self-referential statements are propositional, then there's no reason to deny the Curry's. But I think that you can get around it by denying the material conditional instead. And then the way you deal with denying the material conditional is you replace all material conditionals like Lewisian subjunctive conditional, and then like you get rid of.
How would that get you out of it?
Because on Lewisian subjunctive conditionals, the truth conditions are not pure Q. The truth condition it's not pure Q, and it's also the closeness of the antecedent conditions to the consequent conditions conceptually.
Right, but why can't I just rephrase Curry's paradox in the form of not P or Q? Or just because you're going to deny disjunctive syllogism or something like that?
Well, no. For Curry's paradox, I would deny that. Or I would say that. Say I have like, parentheses P. If P then Q, therefore Q. Right. I don't think that there's any case where that statement is conceptually close to the concept. Right. Because I think that the issue is that, like in my head, the issue is that it just so happens that, given you accept the material conditional, it follows. But given like they have to be conceptual. And to be clear, whenever I say conceptually close, it's being like roughly used in the way that people would say that.
No, what I'm asking is, why not just rephrase Curry's paradox in the form of C equals not C or Q?
C equals not C or Q.
Right.
Right, but I don't. So I don't think the conditional would be true though, because I don't think the antecedent consequent or the antecedent inconsequent. Like I think the first one
I
would
mean,
be false.
you think the first that what do you mean by the premise there? You mean C?
Yeah, I mean the I mean the conditional in the first, like the self-referring.
But I think we're there. I think we're talking past each other. I'm gonna write it out.
Yeah.
So this here, C equals not C or Q, and then I affirm. I say C. Are you denying P1 or affirming P1?
C equals not C
Or is it non-prop?
Yeah. So I would deny. I'll write it out the way that I'm thinking about it. So this kind of like standard formulation of it. I would deny the first premise.
Right. That's with the. I'm asking if you rephrase it from a material implication, which you're taking issue with, into this disjunct. So if I say C equals not C or Q, that's what I mean by C here. Instead of the normal format of Curry's paradox, I'm saying by C, I mean not C or Q. When I say C, is that true or false, or both, or neither?
C equals not. Well, that's just asking if the conditional. That's just asking if the conditional is true, right?
Normal material implication, it would be the same, yeah. But I'm asking. But if you just say you take issue with material implications, well, you don't take issue, I'm guessing, with a disjunct.
Well, I mean, I might actually take issues with this.
You do. That's weird. Then because now there's like this. I don't know. Are you just don't give a fuck about the pragmatic arguments? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think that. Well, yeah, I think like strictly logically speaking, I think that disjuncts are either useless or like overtly bad.
Oh, I totally disagree. Why? Why bad in the sense of what?
So I think that bad in the sense that you know the kind of standard arguments where it's like, parenthesis, like assuming like a standard, like classical logic, like P and not P or Q, not P and not P, therefore Q. Like it seems to me that that's obviously valid, but I wouldn't want to say that because from that, like, given we have the presumption that
POE, yeah.
contradictions are, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But I mean, why disjunct's bad? Like I can off the back of the system I support, right? Off the back of my system with my fucking standard laws of logic, we've been able to build arithmetic. There are some attempts from the paraconsistent logic crowd of building arithmetic. Maybe there's one out there that I haven't seen that succeeds. I'll assume it does. But just on pragmatic grounds, it seems like that's a whole lot of fucking work involved when really you could just accept these views and all of math can be built on this. All the engineers build their work off of this. All the fucking physicists build their work off of this. So it almost feels like if we're doing a pragmatic argument, I feel like the dialetheist loses badly. And I feel like the dialetheist loses badly because you can argue that maybe the reason why the dialetheist has not built they haven't built these systems is due to underrepresentation. To which I'd say, where's the underrepresentation coming from?
yeah, I mean the thing is like say so I think that all disjunctions could like probably be replaced with something else, or so a lot of the things like say I have like a standard disjunction like P or Q, like just that.
Right.
I'm actually not sure that this is even saying anything about P or Q individually. Like I think that I don't even think this is doing anything to either one of them, right? Because it seems to me that this can only be true. Like I mean, we both agree.
But I mean, like disjunctive syllogism and disjunctive introduction are used all the time in like mathematical proofs, all of which we'd have to abandon if we wanted to jump to your system.
Yeah, like, well, the thing is, like a lot of people, they can just say that like it like raises the probability of the conclusion or something, but presumably you would say that's too weak or something.
Yeah, that's too weak because the mathematicians aren't doing. They're not doing this with the effort of doing these inductive cases. They have a distinction there for true proofs and for these weaker inductive arguments. And the goal is to get to the proofs. The goal in like if somebody were to give you this inductive argument that like the primes go on forever, they could just give it out of the first million or whatever. They give you the first million fucking primes, and they say, look at the primes. We counter up to 1 million, and we still keep getting primes. If you say it stops here, we can just count up to the next prime, and we'll get another prime. They can give you this inductive argument. Nobody gives a fuck about that. We want proofs that there's an infinite number of primes.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I mean, you could just say that you could take, you could say that the mathematicians could just take disjunction as a heuristic, or take it for granted.
They don't. Yeah, but that's not what they're doing with it, right? If you just take it to be a heuristic, then a bunch of proofs aren't proofs anymore.
Yeah. I don't know, like, it seems weird, like, it doesn't
And
seem
here's
to
the
me
crazy
that...
part.
Mhm.
Sorry for interrupting, but here's the crazy part. If you take it to be the case that actually it's just a heuristic where it's just an inductive case, the mathematicians are taking these long strings of building off of other people's proofs to be something which is deductively valid because they know the previous proofs are deductively valid. But if you actually say that each time there's this usage of disjunction, each and every time it's just a general heuristic, well then the further and further you build off of those previous proofs, the less and less and less likely that your next thing is true. And so after about a fucking 1,000 of them, assuming it's like a fucking, I don't know, how strong is the heuristic here? Is it like 99%? Is it higher than that?
It's pretty fucking strong. Like,
It's
it's probably, like, incredibly high.
at that point, pragmatically, I could pretend in my head that there's this different. I mean, if it's pretty high, it really depends on how high it is. Because there are proofs that are built off of like, I don't know, fucking millions upon millions of disjuncts. So even with a really, really, really high chance, if you put to the power of 1 million, it's going to become a low chance. It would have to be so high that functionally we can treat it like 100%. And if functionally we can treat it like 100%, why not just treat it like 100% on a pragmatic basis if you care about the pragmatic argument? If you don't, fucking throw that shit out and fucking we'll go through the Simons thing again, or we can go through like, I don't know, if you have an idea of how to build arithmetic off your system, maybe.
Well, yeah, but also presumably like every time that the heuristic works in line with the rest of the system, and like we have either the system is like we know that the system works, like we're certain of it or whatever. Like presumably every time it works in line with the system, we would have higher credences in the heuristic as well.
But obviously raise it, but it wouldn't raise it so high that we're still not just doing the probability of each usage of the heuristic to the power of the number of times it's been used.
Right, but the issue is like it seems like it's not, but like it seems like it's not factoring in that, like it succeeds. Like it just seems like you're.
No, it is. It is. Where I'm saying with our current credence of the heuristic, looking back on the past proofs, we are only as certain of them as we are of the inference rules, right? And so if we say that we have this doubt that the disjunct is always true, so not like some kind of a totally dependent doubt, right? If it was a totally dependent doubt, there's no big deal, because it's actually just that if you have a totally dependent doubt, but it's like the chance is 99%, the chance is 99% no matter how many times you use it. But you have an independent doubt. You think there are going to be some examples that disjunct fails. In which case, why isn't the disjunct just good? Why not just use it treat it as a law of logic? Just pragmatically. Just treat it as like, this is always true no matter what.
Yeah. Oh shit, I need to use my PC to be in a call somewhere else, so we might as well just like save the recording here and move down to PC. I'll join on my phone there.
Type shit. The podcast is ending. Sorry, everyone.